Alright folks, hello again, welcome back to my channel and a rather busy workshop at the moment that I've taken a short time out from because I've got a subject I would like to kickstart a discussion about, and I've been meaning to do this for quite some time, and the topic is buying woodworking items from companies like Temu, Banggood and AliExpress. Now the discussion, whether that will continue in the comment section or via my social media or just amongst yourselves, that is entirely up to you. Now before I open up this topic, I've got a couple of conditions really. Firstly, I can only talk about the perspective from a UK consumer and also a small business owner, which I'll come to later on. But I've got a feeling the sentiments or the principles will echo worldwide. And secondly, I feel like there's no absolute right or wrong in this kind of discussion, and certainly no judgments are going to be made from me whether you choose to buy from companies like this or whether you're dead set against it. And we'll look at the pros and cons of both sides of the argument a little bit later. So what are these types of companies and how do they operate? Well, the likes of Temu, Banggood, AliExpress are large Chinese wholesalers who sell online at significantly discounted prices. Now, although I like this video to be exclusively about woodworking items that they sell, you can literally buy anything from the home there. So they sell garden furniture, kitchenware, home goods, woodworking items, hobbyist stuff. And how do they manage to get their prices so significantly cheaper than what you'd be paying on the high street in your own relative country or even online in your own country? Well, this is only my observations, but they do make in significant quantities, which I'd imagine would allow them to bring their prices down. Do they design their own things that they sell? For example, the clamps that I bought from Banggood, are they designed by Banggood? No. Where did he get them designs from? Well, I think you'd probably have to do your homework on that because I don't want to risk a lawsuit. But that's probably how they get away with bringing the prices down, because they're not necessarily designing those products themselves. And also they keep, in my humble opinion, prices below a certain threshold into the UK because it means they then avoid import duties. So for other companies who are buying in and they go over a certain threshold, which I think is around about £200, anything over that you're subject to import duties, whereas if they're kept underneath that, then you don't have to pay duty to the government. Let me know in the comment section whether that's correct or not. That's my basic understanding of it. And they are hugely popular, certainly have become over the last few years, and understandably so. You know, and let's look at the positives, let's look at the pros from and cons from a consumer perspective. So someone just looking to buy some basic woodworking tools on there. And I also want to look at these kind of companies from a small business perspective, but I'll deal with that a little bit later. But firstly, let's deal with the pros and cons from a consumer perspective. So something like this, which I purchased from Banggood, okay, a T-square. Now, they are significantly cheaper than what you'd pay from other companies available in the UK. So you kind of have a bit of it makes woodworking affordable, or woodworking items, you know, sort of maybe luxury items if you think that you might not be able to afford, and it makes it affordable to someone which, you know, can make the hobby, the small business or whatever more enjoyable, more efficient, easier to do. And you totally see that. You know, you think, well, you know, if you can get hold of something for 10% of the cost or 15 and 20% of the cost of what it would have cost you from a different manufacturer, then you can buy more tools if you like, or you might be just looking to purchase that one item and it's cheaper in your pocket. It's much cheaper to buy. So that's a definite pro, a definite positive to the likes of these companies. A negative to that could be the quality of what you're purchasing can be variable. is probably the best way to describe it. I have heard very mixed things from fellow woodworkers, from fellow content creators, and I've watched loads of videos. Some of the things that you can purchase are very good and very good value, well made, accurate. Some of them not so much, poorly made, not very accurate. So what's the point in buying a square if it's not square at all? So then your cheap investment, if you like, has become wasted money, because it's no use to you, it's no use to anyone if it's not designed to do the job that it is specifically tasked to do. So you can see the positives to that side, you can see the negatives to that side. One other, shall I say, positive that you hear from the consumer is the attitude of sticking it to the big man. Have you heard that kind of turn of phrase before? That folk believe that some manufacturers, some companies are taking consumers for granted and inflating their prices, and people feel compelled, if you like, to spend that because it's something they need, but they believe it's too expensive. So these companies come in with very, very similar items. You could almost argue, if you wanted to, that they look identical. And you're able to get those at prices that you believe the original manufacturer that they have borrowed the design from should be charging that price anyway. And that's how people see it. And you know what? It's an argument that's made. As a consumer, do I agree with that? There was a time when I probably did agree with that. I'm not saying I haven't changed my opinion, and say I'll deal with that at the end. But then, the con to that, or the negative to that, is, are these companies investing in research and development, in prototyping, in testing out materials suitable to that needs? No, they're not, are they? But the company that is coming up with these designs, these ideas, and they are heavily invested into that, and they're heavily invested into the manufacturing process, into the research and development process, into the recruitment process, and that can be reflected in the prices that they're having to charge. When someone is taking those designs, however you want to put it, and just kind of in effect copying them, then no wonder the prices can be substantially discounted, because they're not having to invest in those things I've just referenced. So there's the kind of the positive side, the people looking at it, stick it to the big man, I shouldn't be having to pay those prices, I can get them at a fraction of cost, and they're just as good. And the negative side to that is, are they in effect harming those kind of companies because they have to reflect their prices from the amount of research, development, manufacturing, that kind of thing into it? So yeah, I can see both sides to the discussion there. And how do you feel about that? Where do you sit in that? I think there's, as I say, there's no absolute in these discussions, and made that caveat at the very beginning. I don't think there's an absolute right, I don't think there's an absolute wrong, but where do you sit on that part of the fence when it comes to those kind of discussions from a consumer perspective? Now, the second part of it really is, maybe my attitudes have changed since I've become a small business owner. I am exclusively a one-man band in my workshop. My business has got, various parts to it. It's not exclusively making, and I've, mentioned this many times in the past, as a disabled woodworker who's only got the function of one arm and hand, my manufacturing times are significantly longer than someone who's able-bodied, shall we say. So, but I can't reflect my prices, I can't make my prices 40-50% more expensive than what the typical price would be out there, because my time takes so much longer. Does that make sense? So my business is kind of split up into various parts. So I make custom made items for folk, and I also have a seller space where I sell small gift kind of items. I create content online, and YouTube's my main platform. But I also manufacture my own products as well. So I have my own food safe wood wax that I sell via my website. And last year I branched out into my own products apart from the wood wax, which was the hand-eye crafted tea light marking jig. Now, this is just an extra layer to my business. I launched it around about this time last year with the help of my friend Martin from Chops Designs, who manufactures these for me. Now, this is a very simple marking jig that allows you to give accurate equal spacings for when you're making candle holders. I sell this for $14.99, including postage and packaging to the UK, on my website. It took me quite a while to get to the actual final design that I wanted. And, there's not a lot of money to be made in that when you take away the postage, when you take away the manufacturing costs. But it's something I'm really proud of. And it's been, I'll say, a moderate success for me. I would not make exclusively a living from selling this, but it's part of the business that contributes to me being a full-time maker. Now, this is where my attitude probably changed to the large Chinese wholesale companies, to Temu, to Banggood, AliExpress. There are others, but just the main three that are in my head. Is I know for a fact, and maybe I'm tempting fate here, that they could take this design and they could sell that for $1.99, $2.49 if you like, or they give it away for free if you spent £50 or more on their website. Now, and I could look at it, and with the exception of my logo in the middle, I'd go, that's my product, But what could I do? And could I challenge them legally? They know I can't do that because it would cost thousands, and I don't have thousands, right? And they know that. And what would happen even if I did and I was successful? They'd take it down, but they've moved on to something else. Now, that doesn't sit comfortably with me, both as a consumer and as a small business. I maybe never looked at the bigger picture when I first saw these things, when I first bought, these goods. But now I look at it and I think, well, what if these kind of companies are stifling growth, are stifling entrepreneurship within your respective country? Because if you have, for example, I'm a startup business. I'm only into my second year as as my business, this as my life. But what if I was designing and coming up with ideas for little woodworking items like that? And certainly as a small business, my manufacturing costs, my R&D costs, they'd be quite significant because I don't have a huge array of staff behind the camera to help me out. It's just me. And those designs, those products get taken away and mass produced at significantly cheaper prices than what I could make. So my startup business doesn't even get off the ground. My startup business becomes bust. And I then have to look at doing something else. So my dream, my vision, my ideas, my designs is gone. Now, I don't like that. I don't like the idea of that. I love the idea of entrepreneurship. I try and support people. I try and support local businesses, and I always have that. If you follow me in the likes of Instagram, I'm always promoting fellow local businesses here because I believe in the independent. The independent business, the small business is the lifeblood of our communities. And am I being over dramatic here, but I do think, I genuinely think about this. The more I process this, and the more I think about it, is I totally understand the reasons why people use these large Chinese wholesalers. The costs and that kind of thing. But what's the costs to your country, your community, your society, those kind of things? Because I do think they are stifling growth. I do think they are stifling entrepreneurship, and I do think they are really causing problems for small businesses, certainly within the UK. My understanding is the EU are trying to take action against these kind of things. I don't know the ins and outs of it, but unfortunately there's a negative knock-on effect with that. I think they've almost gone a bit draconian in the sense that I can't sell my small business items. Excuse me a minute. So I can't sell my wax now to the EU. For various reasons that I don't quite understand, but and I can't really afford to get the licenses, the agreements for that, because they are quite expensive. So I've had to suspend my sales of my goods to the EU. But the EU are trying to, I think, clamp down on these kind of practices from large Chinese wholesalers. If you know a little bit more about that, let me know in the comments. Let me know via my social media. So that's where I think I'm at. It is kind of a discussion to be had, I think, within the woodworking community, whether you're in the UK, whether in the US, Australia, Europe. And I'd be really interested to hear your thoughts. Do you think, are you the same as where I was at, that you think there's absolutely nothing wrong with, purchasing goods from these companies, and everyone should continue to do so? And as I said, there's no absolute right or wrong. If you feel that's right, I've no issue with that. If you disagree with it, I've no issue with that either. I'm really interested to gather information, if you like, gather opinion, and see where the woodworking community are at with this. How do you feel about it in regards to small businesses in your country and the potential it has to affect them? Small woodworking businesses, small manufacturing businesses. Do you think these companies have a negative impact on that? Or do you think actually the small companies are broad-shouldered enough to deal with it, and people will choose to buy from them regardless of whether there's a cheaper alternative available or not? Let me know what you think. All right, so yeah, I think I'm going to leave it at that one, because I have probably ranted a little bit on that, but it's something I'm very keen to talk about. It's something I'm very keen to engage with people with, and it's something I think there is a degree of interest for people to talk about it as well. Hope that makes sense. Okay, folks, I'm going to leave it at that one. So as ever, thanks for watching. Take care. I'll see you soon.